Good morning and welcome to Board Gaming Breakfast. Board Gaming Breakfast is a series presented by the McMeeples where I like to go live every weekday morning from 8 to 8:30 to talk about games and game mechanics and game designing. Hope everyone had a great weekend. I got a little runny nose this morning, so bear with me. I apologize. I'll pull the mic a little further away so my sniffling doesn't interfere. For those of you who are new to Board Gaming Breakfast, we have three parts of the breakfast, three parts of the meal, three square meals that we like to go through. The first is we bring a game to the table. This is a game that we've been playing recently that personally I've really enjoyed. There's sort of mechanics to it that make it really fun for me, and we talk through those mechanics and what we like and why we think it's worthy of a game for discussion. Then we'll take that game of the day and brainstorm a way to fit a random mechanic into it. And then we'll finish off the meal with designing a game from scratch in 5 minutes. So sit back, relax, enjoy your breakfast, and we'll get right into it. All right. So today's game of the day, or the game of the meal, today's game is It's a Wonderful World by Lucky Duck Games, and it is a engine building drafting game. So engine building and drafting, for those of you who don't know, is at the beginning of each round, depending on the number of players. In a 3-player or higher game, you'll be dealt 7 cards to pick from, and this is what the faces of them look like. And there's a few different parts that we'll get into explaining, but these cards and the running of the engines are the two mechanics that I'd like to talk about today of why I really love It's a Wonderful World. For context, we have the expansion to it, and we have, well, both expansions. I believe we have the majority of the content for it. We don't have the deluxe heritage box, so we've managed to remove the insert and stuff it all into this small guy. But It's a Wonderful World is the game that we're going to be talking about today. So in a standard draft, you'll have your 7 cards. You'll select one you want to keep, place it face down. Once everyone's selected a card, you'll reveal it, pass the remaining cards to the player to your left or right, depending on the round, and then you will pick from those 6 and keep doing that procedure until everyone has 7 cards face down in front of them. And you will then go into the build phase of it and then the production phase of it. So I'm not going to do a full game overview because I think there are better content creators that are able to do that. Today I'm just going to focus on the mechanics that I find very enjoyable. And so once you've drafted your 7 cards, you have a little decision to make of if you want to build the card, which the cost required for the card is up here, or discard it for that immediate 1 resource bonus for discarding. And I think this is really cool because after you choose to which cards you're going to build, you'll go into the production phase. And once you have placed the resources that it costs on that card, not only will you gain this one-time bonus up here, but you'll also put this into your production chain. I didn't grab any of the starting buildings, but you'll put that into your production chain, and then after the building phase has happened, you will run your production engines in chronological order. I don't know where the starting buildings are. So we got the upgrades. There should be one more pile of starting cards. Oh, right here. Maybe? Yes. Awesome. So what'll happen is everyone starts with their building here, and so this is the starting resources that you have in your engine, and as you upgrade cards, you'll be able to place them on there, and as the game progresses, you might have what is your resource engine in front of you. And that kind of ties into the other part of the game that I really enjoy, is that when you're doing the production phase, this is the board, you won't gain all the resources at the same time. You'll gain them from gray to blue. And so when the production phase happens, everyone that has a gray production chain in their engine that they've built will gain gray first, then black, then green, then yellow, then blue, in that order. And there's a little superiority bonus, so whoever produces the most gray in the round will get I believe they are, I don't know the technical term for them. Maybe I can see it in the instructions really quick. They will get a financier or generals. So the blue people are the financiers and the red people are the generalists. In the green production phase, you get to choose which one you'd want. And so the act of the production running left to right is a really cool twist to engine building that I have not seen before. And so I find that planning that you're going to get your gray, then your black, and so on and so forth, adds this little puzzle of deciding where to put your resources at the beginning. Because, for example, let's see if I can find it here. Say our production engine is right here, and we'll get 2 gray resources at the start of production. If we can get a blue and a gray onto this card before the gray portion of production happens, this will actually upgrade, and you can use this for that production rounds. So you'll be able to get the black and yellow because those come after gray production. And so that little twist to it makes a fun puzzle of deciding where to place your resources before the production happens. So that might make us want to draft this card because we can discard that blue to gain it right onto that production card right away. And so, oh, here's a perfect example. So if we ended up with these 3 cards here, we could choose to keep and try and build this one and then discard these 2 because we'd get a gray and a blue resource to put onto this card. So then when our production begins, those 2 gray would complete this card and it would go right into our production. So we'd get 2 blacks instead of 1, and we'd get a yellow for that production round. And so that puzzle in a nutshell is the reason that I find It's a Wonderful World to be such a engaging game. And all it is it's played over 4 rounds. You'll do the drafting phase, then you'll choose which buildings you want to keep and try and produce, and which ones you want to discard for scrap for those resources. And then you'll finish with running the production engine, and that for all players runs at the same time. So the game plays fairly quickly. It says 45 minutes right on the box. It's also got a solo variant that I've really enjoyed, where it has these different missions that you can try and go on. And it's these solo scenarios that slightly change the game a little bit in terms of how you draft the cards, but it'll give you like 3 or 4 buildings that you start with, and in order to be able to score for the game, you must build those buildings, and that creates fun little puzzles to try and figure out how to navigate through. So, in closing, that is my favorite mechanics of It's a Wonderful World by Lucky Duck Games. I'd love to hear in the comments below what your favorite mechanics are for It's a Wonderful World, or if there are, if you agree, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Have a good one. So the next part of the breakfast is we like to take the game of the day, and so our game of the day was It's a Wonderful World. And what we'll do is we'll switch screens over to our wheel of mechanics. And what we have here is I've loaded in 63 different game mechanics that we will have to design around. So we're going to click the spin button, and whatever it lands on, we will have to try and fit into It's a Wonderful World. So we got flow. What is flow? I have no idea what flow is, so we will make a note to ourselves to look that up for next time, but we're going to spin the wheel again. And we're going to close out on every ad so they don't start playing randomly. Alright, so we got action points. Interesting. So action points are a select number of actions that you get to take in a game. So say we had 5 action points or 6 action points, that would be the number of actions that we can take in a round. And so what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our 5-minute timer, and then once the timer starts, we're going to figure out how to get the action point system into It's a Wonderful World. So we're going to start the timer, and we got It's a wonderful world. Not word. It's a wonderful world. Plus action points. Should have wrote that before I started the timer. But my initial instinct is that we are going to say after the draft phase, when you're selecting your buildings to build and doing the so once you've drafted your 7 cards, you have 5 action points to spend to determine which ones you're going to want to build and which ones you're going to want to discard for resources. And so say we could assign a different cost to them, and so we'll add in a new action. So you can either keep, and that we'll say that one's free. You can discard, and we'll say that one is worth 2 action points. And we'll say you can, or discard can be for a resource, can be 1 action point, or you can discard for draw. And that'll cost you 2. And so hypothetically, if we were thinking that someone would want to keep at least 3 buildings per round, they could discard 3 to gain the resource, and then they could trash 3 to gain the resource. We'll call that trash to differentiate between the two. So you could trash a card, or scrap. I think that's what they call it, scrap. So you could scrap a card to gain the resource. You could discard a card to draw a new one, or you could just keep the building for free. And so maybe we say you either get 5 to 6 action points, depending on... That could be the base game of it. How we would tailor it is potentially whoever is in turn, or like the leader of the round, could get an extra action point, maybe? I don't know. We'll start with base level. You have 5 action points. And so of the 7 cards that you have ended up with, maybe we say that we definitely want to keep this recycling plant. So that would be our 1 card. So we'll keep that one. And the icebreaker is something we want to build to because we have a victory point condition for blue resources. So we know we want to keep that one. And the rest of the cards we see, there's the division tank is a good one that we potentially would want to keep because that would help get towards more blue. But we know this universal vaccine, we don't really have a use for that yellow resource this round. So maybe we'll spend 2 of our action points to discard that card to draw a new one from the deck. And so, okay, we have our little action point tracker here, and it's broken into 5 sections. And so we've spent 2. And that would be the 0. Sorry for the speed crap draw. But we have our action point system there, and we've spent, no, screen share, lost connection. That's no good. It's trying to connect. Alright, we will try and carry on. We will try and reset that once the timer goes off. But we've spent 2 of our action points. We got 5 cards left, so theoretically we could discard 3 of them to get the resources and then be stuck with building 2 more. Well, maybe we drew the research center, which is actually good for us. So we're going to keep the tank division because we know we can beat that there. So we have 3, and then we discarded that one. And okay, maybe we'll go for a long-term play of getting the magnetic train. So that would be another one that we end up trying to keep. And then we trashed these 3 for the resources. And that would be how we would conduct our turn, and then we would jump back into the regular format of It's a Wonderful World, where then we would jump into this production phase. Since we don't have a screen right now, I will jump back to full camera. And so that would be how we'd add action points into perfect timing. That would be how we add the action point system into It's a Wonderful World. So if we can pause for a couple seconds, maybe I can reset the screen sharing on our Remarkable. Stop sharing. Maybe we'll try and hardwire connect in. Excuse me, It's a Wonderful World. I need that. All right, present will screen share. It is waiting to accept invitation. Boom. Are we connected? We are connected. So let me jump back into OPS, go back to here. So thank you for bearing with me, but our goal for this 5-minute design was to combine It's a Wonderful World with action points. And our idea for how we did that is each player would have on their little starter card a section for a red cube. So we'd have our normal engine building spot that we're scoring 2 for blue, and we start with these. Those are some nice hexagons. We have those as our 3 production pieces that we're starting with, and we have the little symbol over here that every 5 scrapped colors makes a red, and we got the name. And do they all have different symbols? I don't know if I ever noticed that. I'm getting sidetracked, so we'll just do the fun little symbol. But what we've done is, so we have our normal starting card, and so we just add this little action point tracker, and we would borrow probably the red cubes as a way to track how you spent the resources over here. And after the normal 7-card draft, get that 7th one back, you would have 5 action points to spend to manipulate your cards to end up with which buildings you're going to build for the round, or try and build for the round, or the rest of the game. And so over here, we have determined that the 3 actions that we can do are we can keep the building, which would be free, we can scrap the building to get its resource, but that would cost 1 action point, and we could discard a building to draw a new one, which would cost 2. And so we would then probably write out those in a little more clean version and print out the little reference for everyone to as action indicators for the end of the round. We would potentially put some masking tape or something like that, or maybe just some scotch tape and tape over a few of the cards with a clean action tracker, and that would be the last steps that I would need to do to take It's a Wonderful World and turn it into a game with action points. And so the next time we pulled out It's a Wonderful World to play with friends, I would bring up that I have a new concept of what I've been playing around with to see if the mechanic works, and I'd get consent from the group to see if that's something that they would like to try and play with for It's a Wonderful World, and that's how I'd test out adding action points to It's a Wonderful World. So we got a comment in chat from Michaela saying, I don't have much to add since I'm not the best at It's a Wonderful World. Or since I'm not the best It's a Wonderful World player. That's okay, Michaela. We don't all have to be perfect at games. You have plenty of games that you are a pro in anyway, so not to worry. So I'd love to hear in the comments below what other action points you think would be a fun way to twist up It's a Wonderful World. If you like this type of content, feel free to subscribe. I would love to build the audience who wants to engage and come up with their own ideas so that we can test them on screen. So thank you for watching. The last part of the breakfast is we will get a new page, boop, and we will pull up our handy dandy game idea generator, and we will switch to this. And what we have here is at letsmakeagame.net. We have our game idea generator, which when we click the generate button, it will randomly prompt us with a genre, rule, setting, and theme for us to design around. So what we're going to do is we're going to set 5-minute timer on the clock after we generate. click generate and use that 5 minutes of brainstorming to see what type of game we can come up with. And once the 5-minute timer goes off, we will recap with where we got, talk about our next steps to get this game to a state where it might be playable, and I would talk you through how I get to the point of the game breaking to hopefully fix it or understand that it's not a game concept to move forward with. So without further ado, we're going to click the generate. And we got a turn-based, start with nothing, mythology, urban legend game. And so I will switch back to OBS really quick. I will start our 5-minute timer, and we are off. So turn-based, that's pretty standard. So we have something in the center of the board, and we have our different people. And we got our starting player, and we're going clockwise. And since we talked about It's Wonderful World earlier in the stream, we will do drafting maybe? Or I guess drafting's simultaneous, so this has to be turn-based. So you start with nothing. Maybe we'll use that building system as we're still doing the engine building, but you don't start with anything at the start of the round. So if we get that a little more in the front of the screen. But you start with nothing, mythology and urban legend. So maybe everyone has a secret ploy screen, or like this blueprint that has a mythical being that we can resurrect, or the different like characters in Greek mythology is sort of what I'm leaning towards in the mythology. That's what's triggering in my brain for mythology. And so potentially you have, step 1 do this, step 2 do that, step 3 and 4 that is your pathing for the game. And the urban legend is if you do these 4 things in a row. Got a comment in chat from Michaela, my fiance, saying, I kind of feel like many games are like this, where you start with nothing and build up resources in a turn-based game. It's definitely a more broad prompt. I agree. So we're trying to mentally put our own constraints on it, so we'll see where we get to. But I guess our thought is that we have some sort of blueprint that at the start of the game you're dealt 2, and then you can pick one, which is your overall goal from the game, and the first person to complete their blueprint is the winner. And so, so that's your blueprint, and you have to do them in order from 1 through 4, which is similar to our game of the day, where the production happens in order. And what would happen here is potentially your map is some pinwheel of different locations that you can go out to and do things. And so on your turn, you can move your character and do 1 action, would be the regular turn order. So our turn structure, TURE, turn structure, make it a little more clean. So my illegible handwriting is a little more legible. And so you move and then action. And in order to complete a blueprint, you have to get back to the center and take the action of like boasting or communicating to the group, hey, I have done phase 1 of my blueprint, and that would take a whole turn. But what you would be doing is moving, and there's potentially a resource allocated to it in an action. And these are the 8 different resource types, and potentially maybe it's 4 different, and there's going to be 2 of the same in different areas. And so you would randomize the actions that are in each, and We will pause the timer there because we are running short on time, but where we got to with this prompt is turn-based start with nothing, Greek mythology, urban legend. We sort of pasted on the mythology and urban legend portion of this to say that we are taking on the roles of trying to summon this mythological beast. It's not fully sure if it's true or not, but everyone's found a manuscript and how to do that in the form of a blueprint that has 4 sequential tasks that you need to complete and reveal before the other one, so you have to do them in sequential order. And the way you do that is by moving around the city and performing actions to convert resources or to gain resources to then complete each section of your blueprint. And at the first to do that and boast about it in the center of town at the end of the game summons their mythical being and is the winner. So it's at the point where it would be a very rudimentary, I'm thinking like Crown of Amara style thing, and so I'd probably look in at or remind myself of how Crown of Amara plays because it has 2 boards similarly set up like this. So I would probably reference that to come up with what actions we could test out, and what I would do is I would create these 90-degree triangles, and what we would do at the start of the game is you'd randomize all 8 of them and then place the town center piece in the middle. So I'd probably 3D print this just as a placemat that we could stick on white printer paper or some form of like full sheet stickers to be able to adjust and modify. But it would be something that all of the right triangles had a pinhole in the center of them. And so once you have them all laying flat, you could then slot in the center of town to create the main board. And I would then come up with the blueprints, which would probably be, you have your 4 sections here, and this would be resources that you have to fulfill. I'd probably assign some sort of urban legend or mythical potion style thing to differentiate which resources they are, but for the sake of this game idea, we'd probably, I have a box of just colored cubes, so I'd grab 4 of them, and for ease of play, there would be 16 cubes that you have to place on each one, and you would then take the actions. Maybe for simplicity's sake, I would make all of the actions like a conversion this into that, of take 1 red and turn it into 2 blue or something like that. And that would be the bare bones of just getting to test this mechanic. And I wouldn't add any flair or anything like that to just see if the overall mechanic is fun to play. And say it is successful, I would build off of that for like making asymmetrical powers, making it feel like there's more game to it than just moving around and converting resources. But this would be an in-person playtest idea that I'd probably do, where I could even play this solo, where once I have those 3D printed tiles that get locked in, we could stick on just colors of what the resource would be, and I have labels that I would stick on and just quickly come up with, or I might not even do labels at this point. I would probably just borrow all the material from Century Golem Edition and just try out this mechanic to see if it's a fun way to do resource conversion. And so with that, that is our randomly generated game prompt of the day. Not the most inspiring of game prompts, or not even prompts, but ideas that came out as a result for it. But if you have any ideas of your own to spice up this idea, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. And if you like this 5-minute brainstorm content of creating a game from scratch in 5 minutes, feel free to subscribe. There will be videos that go out once a week, kind of recapping a game prompt that we've done in the past. So follow along for more. And with that, I'm going to wrap up today's breakfast. Thank you all for those who've stopped by, and I hope to hear from you guys soon.